Hi everyone, welcome to the Ravit Show. Super excited to have Clarence from Zoho today. Not a new face to the Ravit Show. Clarence has been on the show, and we'll be talking a lot around Agentic AI in data and analytics. Also, a lot around the BI space, which is where Clarence and team have been doing a lot in this space. So it's my pleasure to have Clarence back on the show. And also business intelligence as a space has come long way from static reports and dashboards. Today agentic AI is opening the doors to analytics that can understand context, recommend actions, and also help drive business outcomes. So I'm curious to talk about all these topics with Clarence. Welcome back to the Ravit Show. Such a pleasure to have you back.
Yeah, thank you, Ravit. It's always a pleasure to meet you. So it's been quite a while since I came back. So
Yes.
it's coming back to your community, yeah, and speaking about new things.
And very excited because the last time I think we spoke was almost close to 8 months back at Big Data London, and then
Right.
things have changed. Things have changed so much. So the space that we were talking about 9 months or 8 months back has evolved so much in the BI space as well. So I'm kind of curious to talk about agentic AI, BI, all of those things. But just for our audience, I'm pretty sure everyone knows your face, and you've spent almost close to 3 decades in this space, which is phenomenal. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role at Zoho, and what do you look after?
Okay. So I've been with Zoho for close to 26 years now. Okay, so almost 3
Wow,
decades. It's a long journey. So this has
nice,
been my first company and the only company that I've been working. So that's a kind of history of how long have I been
nice.
in Zoho. So primarily, I head the business intelligence and data product suite. It's a complete separate division that I head, right, where we offer quite a lot of products in the analytics as well as data space. And I head this division, and my primary role is to look at both the product evolution direction as well as the business operations of the product suite. And
Right.
day in, day out, I focus on the product management, technology evolution, as well as keeping a tab of how business is happening, right, in terms of go-to-market and executions. So that's what I primarily do. I love data. I love analytics. This has been a domain that I've been there for more than 20 years now. Okay, although
Yes.
initially I was not into that, but I've been tracking all along since 2000. Okay, on what is happening in BI, the new term analytics, what has been happening in
A
data
plus.
warehouses, and lots more. Okay, and lots more. So that has been my area of exposure. Or I would
Love
not
it.
even say expertise, because we keep on learning. Things are constantly evolving. So I would say it's an area of exposure. I keep gaining as we speak.
Yeah.
My domain about this. Okay.
I love it. I love it. And 26 years in this space, and more than 3 decades in this space is massive. So I'm going to talk a lot about different things. Let's start with BI space, because BI has evolved significantly over the last 2 decades, and has evolved as well. So how do you view this evolution, and where does agentic AI fit into the next chapter of analytics? Because that's something that I have a lot of conversations with the enterprise leaders, and that topic kind of comes up, that there's so much different messaging that goes on in this space. I'm kind of curious to know from your point of view, because you talk to a lot of customers, enterprise leaders, prospects, and the community too. So tell us, how has it evolved?
Okay. Since you asked about the evolution of BI, right? So maybe just some
Yeah.
backstory, what I
Mm.
know, right? See, the initial system of what they call as reporting or business started late back around 1990s. Okay, so where it started with something called reporting system. Okay, where typically developers or IT persons would really create some static reports and share it to their executives, right, on demand. Okay, and even before that, it was completely driven by through spreadsheets. But later there were some systems called reporting systems, which helped people to create this kind of static reports and help people to look at what is happening in the business. So that is what it started with, right? And that's the first generation of what we today call as analytic system, right? And then it evolved into creating dashboards, not only static reports but also dashboards, KPI dashboards. All these things came into
Right.
being. And the next significant shift happened from not just helping people to developers and IT people to create reports and deliver it to executives, but there was a clear shift towards helping business users themselves to really analyze and get insights. That's what self-service BI came into being. That happened something around 2000, early 2000s, right?
Right.
Around 2005, 2006. Right? That's the starting of what today we call a self-service BI, where it enabled any kind of business users to get data, analyze, create their reports and dashboards, and get insights out of that, right? And that was in vogue until recently, right? Till
Mhm.
something around 2020, right? Where the new shift started happening because of systems like natural language processing, AI, ML, big data, right? And
Yeah.
even recently in 2023, the LLMs, the now famous and very hot agent
Yeah.
AI models, right? So that's where the shift happened from just being a self-service analytics platform to something called a conversational analytics platform, where people were able to interact with the BA system through natural language questioning, natural language generation, and get insights. Right? But still, it was a kind of a purely ML-based, machine learning-based model, not through what they call as generative AI models, right? And that once again got another shift in few years itself after the invention, after the introduction of the GPTs, right, and especially Chat
Mhm.
GPT and other models, right, where it is not only about conversational analytics, but we can start looking at very smart agents which can
Right.
enable people to take decisions and even actions from that, right. So that is the system that is now in vogue. Okay, what they call as agentic analytics, where smart agents or autonomous agents can drive decision making, automate the entire process, and push the envelope from not only looking at insights but taking actions and even tracking in terms of the business outcomes. So that is how this whole system is evolving, and that's where we are today. Okay.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love this journey from reporting to dashboards to self-service to now agentic analytics, and things have kind of evolved a lot. There's obviously a lot of excitement around agentic AI today, and I'm pretty sure you hear a lot about that as well. As a BI vendor that has been serving enterprises for years, what changes are you seeing in the customer expectations compared to just a few years back? It used to be all different, but right now what do they expect, and how are you all catering to them? Tell us a little bit about that as well.
See, the major shift that is happening is today customers just don't need more reports and dashboards alone. Okay, they don't want systems that will help them look at some visualization, take their own decisions, then trigger business action out of the context of the business intelligence system itself. Right? What they
Mhm.
are is, okay, how can you enable me to take decisions and then track the business impact because of the data that I'm analyzing? Okay, that's the whole shift that is happening. So it is not about just helping people to get insights, but triggering actions and helping them to look at the business impact because of the actions, right? So insights to actions, that's where the whole shift is happening because of agentic analytics, right? So
Mhm.
here you just go a little more deeper, right? So let's say, for example, that you're running a marketing campaign, right? You're a marketing manager, right? So as a marketing manager, you just don't want to give me the BA systems to give you dashboards where you can look at how your marketing campaigns are
Right.
performing. And then you say, okay, let me go and run a new campaign, top up the budget in my Google AdWords spend, or pause my AdWords campaign because it was not performing well. So these are actions that you typically try to do. Go to another system, then do that action. Then after some time, they once again measure the outcomes and then look at what is happening. Right? That's the typical cycle of how the BA system was playing a game
Yep.
in the business, right? But today, a marketing manager is expecting something like, okay, you already have the data, you already know what are the insights that I would be interested. Why not you give me what is happening automatically? Okay, so
Mm. So true.
send me a nice digest of what is happening, and then not only tell me what is happening, but tell me why something is going wrong. Okay, what should I do? Right, what should I do to fix the problem? Suggest me the recommendations. Right, suggest me the
Very
recommendation,
important.
and even go and even provision those changes in the business application that I'm working
Yep.
on. It would be that I top up the budget in a Google AdWords system, or I come up with a plan, add tasks, CRM tasks for my agents to go and work on it. So this is the kind of systems that today users are expecting, right? Rather than just helping people to get insights, and then take up actions all by themselves. They are looking at intelligent systems that can really push down intelligence to where they are already working, help people to automate the actions, and even track what is happening over time. So that is the way people are now expecting, and this is why it is evolving to just not be in an analytic system to something more called what we call as decision intelligence system. Okay, it is enabling people to take decision and also track the outcomes automatically, like in an autonomous or semi-autonomous way. So that's how people are expecting things to evolve, and that's what they want to be addressed. Okay, not just a reporting or a dashboarding platform alone. Okay, so
Yeah, no, I love it. I love these insights where they obviously are not just looking out for keeping it simple, but they also want to get into. They're expecting a lot from the system as well. Like if they have agentic analytics in place, they are really expecting and they know the game pretty well, which is fantastic. I'm kind of also curious to hear from you. Some industry experts argue that dashboards are becoming less central in the AI era, which we've been kind of hearing. We've been hearing all kinds of messaging out there. But then also, do you believe dashboards are becoming irrelevant, or is the role simply changing? How does that kind of come together when you have conversations with the enterprise leaders, but in general as well as a vendor, you might have more insight into this?
okay. See, I would not say that dashboards are getting out of phase. Okay, so it's just that there are more avenues for people to now interact with data and get insights.
So true.
So dashboard is one means, but now there are more avenues that people want to interact with. They want a conversation interface. They want agents to automatically give them insights. These are multiple channels through which people get insights and take actions. So I would not
Yep.
say dashboards are going away, right? So in fact, what I would say is basically people will continue to need dashboards, because dashboards gives you a kind of a more trustworthy scoped insights which are more repeatable. Because if you're looking at a conversation agent or an agent analytics, right, you go converse with it at that instance, the agent might give you some insights, but that need not be repeated. Okay, that might not be trustworthy, right? So a dashboard is much more of a standardized, trustworthy, curated insights that the executives and the internal organization might trust, because it is already curated, it has been reviewed, and it has a shared knowledge which is going to give a good baseline, right? So that is
Yep.
that will continue to be an important means by which people will access insights, but they will not just stop with it. For example, as a marketing manager, with the same example that I was quoting, I would look at a campaign performance dashboard. Then the natural next step would be something that I might interact, do a drill down and look at analysis, or I might open up a conversation agent and ask questions on the dashboard. So a dashboard could itself become a starting point for my analytical journey or decision making journey, right? So that's how things are going to get blended. So dashboard will continue to have its own place where it's going to give you trustworthy insights, curated
Nice.
insights,
Yep.
insights that are shared across the organization, and it is something that is repeatable, right, well governed and well controlled in terms of security and permissions, right? So that will continue to play a game, but it will seamlessly get connected to the new area of agentic analytics, where conversation interface will get blended as part of the dashboard. That can be a starting point for anyone inside the organization to get further into analyzing the data that is being shown inside the dashboard, take actions, and move forward, right? So in summary, dashboards are not going to go away. It is going to be one of the means by which people are going to access insights and take actions. So there are going to be more means, but it's not going to go away.
That's a very a good point there, because that's one of the thing that kind of comes up when we have conversations as well with the analytics folks out there, and the data analysts, and they're like, in the end we still have to have that dashboard to look at various things in just quickly. If we want to have like different stats that we want to look at, we're not going to go out and type particularly about that industry or that sales. We'll definitely do that when we want to dig in deeper, and that's when with the dashboard maybe we might have more questions that we might want to ask, and that's where the interface of asking questions can come in, and dashboards will still play a very important role. So Clarence, something which kind of resonates pretty well with at least the conversations that I'm having. I'm kind of also wanting to learn from you, what is like one of the biggest promises of agentic analytics that you see is moving beyond insight delivery? How do you see analytics, evolving from telling us what happened and to actually supporting or even automating business decisions? How does that kind of come together?
Yeah. So as I indicated earlier, right? So the whole system is moving towards from just giving you insights to
Yeah.
enabling you to take decisions and look at the business impact, right? So so it is evolving into something what we call as a not very intelligent decision analytics system. Okay, that's how I would
Hmm.
phrase it. Where
Yep.
it is going to get into explaining your business in terms of why something is happening. Okay, or maybe start with what is happening in your business in terms of
Yep.
insights. Why is it happening? By trying to do some deep root cause analysis, right? Come up with the recommendations in terms of what can you try to do, okay, to really address the problem that you're looking at, and even
Yes.
look at predicting the future, right? So that is the other dimension. And when you look at the recommendations that are being offered with systems, right, it can not only give you recommendations on what can you do to really address the problem that you're today facing, but also help you to automate workflows, right? And orchestrate the workflows, which will go and try to make the decisions happen in your digital systems. It can be
Right.
CRM applications, it can be your help desk ticketing systems, or it can be any of the other custom applications that you are trying to use it for your business operations, right? So
Mm.
the whole space is going to get into something like moving from insights to helping people to take decisions and even automate
Nice.
the workflow, where the agentic analytics system itself will become an orchestrator of an agentic solution, which will try to
Yep.
orchestrate the entire workflows, track the decisions that have been made, and be smart about showing the outcomes on what is really come out because of the recommendations and actions that has been taken, right? So that is how
Yep.
this whole space is going to evolve. And in the next few years, you will start seeing these things in reality being adopted by the enterprises very widely. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
I love these points, and fantastic about having like the human component into the game, the decision intelligence into the game, and then the workflow and the recommendation of the engines. That kind of obviously helps us to understand about this space much more. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here, Clarence, into something which we all have been hearing and talking a lot about, which is context engineering. That has emerged as a major topic in AI conversations that we are having. I'm pretty sure you are having with your customers, partners at conferences that you all visit as well. How do you define it, and why is it becoming a critical capability for enterprise analytics platforms? Tell us a little bit more around that, Clarence.
See, if you look at it, if you look at the concept of agentic AI, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
all about leverage the smart large language models, right? To really apply that into your business context and try to provide some solutions. That's what is agentic AI all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the models themselves cannot understand know about your data, about your business. Okay, the models have some foundational knowledge which has been accrued by lots of training, and because of that it is very smart. It has quite a lot of reasoning capacity, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
reasoning capacity is like a human brain. But for the human brain to work properly, it has to be understanding the business context or the environment it is in which it is working, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
inside Zoho. I know about Zoho. I have a business context about what Zoho is doing, how things are operating, what are the business policies, what are the contextual data that comes inside Zoho. So that is the information that comes into my brain. Then I process it. I use my overall smartness that I've learned over time, and then apply that to come up
Right.
with decision. That's the kind of a merging of my intelligent capability along with the business context that is evolving in my environment, right? The same thing is how things have to really work here in the context of leveraging agentic AI. So agentic
Mm-hmm.
models are really smart. They have a great reasoning capability. That's foundational, right? But if it has to be applied appropriately in a business, right, it has to understand the business context, and that's what they call that as context engineering, right? So I have to
Mm.
feed in what what is the business definition, what is the environment in which the business is working, so what are the
Right.
policies business adhere to, right? So what are the signals that it has to pick up proactively and act upon, right? So what is the current state of the business? All these things make up what they call as the context. right? And this context has to be smartly fed into the agentic system so that it will use this
Right.
reasoning capacity along with this business case and give you much more trustable and reliable outcomes. So that is the whole thing, right? Without this business context, agents can give you some inputs, but it will not be trustworthy. It will not be contextual. It might not be something that you can adopt it because it lacks the whole business understanding of how things are going, right?
Understanding. True.
That is that's the most important, and that's why this whole concept is going to be very, very important, because just having foundational models, every model is going to be more or less the equivalent
Same
or
only. It seems.
yeah,
Yeah. It's just gonna compete with each other, and it's just gonna evolve. Yeah.
so the smartness comes in terms of who's going to really engineer the context properly and feed into the system appropriately, and to get the maximum out of the agentic AI system, right? So
Yep.
that's why multiple things that people are doing. So if you look at BA platforms like us or a data platforms, right? So
Mm.
they are trying to do this entire context engine in multiple layers. So first they do what they call as ontology. Okay, what it means is, so you have data, right? The data has to be properly modeled into what they call as
Yep.
entities. You might have, let's say, a sales application. You will have a customer, and then for a customer there could be accounts that you create, because for example, ABC Corp is a customer, right? And you might have a sales division or North America division as an account, or a South America division as another account, or an India division as another account, right? For that account, you might have quite a lot of opportunities that you create, because a salesperson creates opportunities, right?
Right.
So the opportunities might generate invoices if the deal is closed, right? This is kind of multiple entities that is getting captured as part of the business application, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there is relation. So it means a customer can own multiple accounts, an account can have multiple opportunities, and an opportunity can have invoices that can be generated. This is basically an explanation of how these entities are connected together and what is the relationship between them, right? And that's what
Right.
they call the ontology. Ontology, right? On this ontology, right, what they try to do is, the next layer is what they call as coming up with the semantic definition of this ontology, right? Where you
Yes.
say, okay, what is I might call customer, you might call as basically an organization, right? These are different terminology calling for the same entity, right? So you might want to give what they call as synonyms, describe the relationship, or you might want to even define business metrics. Let's say you want to define a metric called win rate, how fast I am
Mm.
closing, right? You want to have a standardized definition of this win rate, right? So that you don't allow the agent to come up with its own formula or calculations ad hoc, right? So you define those business the metrics properly, and define the entire business in a very naturally uh, agent friendly manner. That's what semantic layer is all about, right? So that's the
Right.
second layer that people try to do here. So once you have the semantic layer and the ontology, then you create what they call as a knowledge graph. Knowledge means, because
Right.
there are entities, there are multiple attributes that you have for the entity, like metrics, signals. Those things get connected and you create a graph, right? So that's a knowledge graph. But that is this up to this, we call this basically a designed knowledge, because this is something that you can design in a static
True.
manner. Okay, you have all this entity. But as the systems operate or the business function, right, dynamic information keeps flowing into the system, right?
Right.
You might do some, let's say, for example, in a marketing system, you might do a campaign, you might do a discount campaign. Okay, that's an
Mm-hmm.
event. There could be a, let's say, suddenly your services might be down. That's a event that is happening, right? So these are new things that keeps collecting, okay, which has to be also recorded, so that dynamic information gets also modeled as part of your business information, right? And not only
Right.
that, you might have an anomaly. For example, let's say there's a downtime, and because of which there is a alert that is being generated. So
Mm-hmm.
those are signals that the systems also generate, right? A downtime could be something, high priority escalation ticket that has been raised by customers could be another
Very
thing.
important.
So
Yeah.
these are dynamic signals that are also be picked up. So this is what we call as dynamic knowledge. So that the first part I talked about designed knowledge, there is a dynamic knowledge,
Yep.
all put together in a nice structure. Like, is what they call as a context, the business context, right? And this business context, if properly designed, right, and fed into the agentic layer, this is the
Mm-hmm.
agent reasoning engine. The smartness will become much more better enabled, more trustworthy, more repeatable, right? And that is the whole space of context engineering. And BI systems and data platforms are systems which are investing quite heavily on this, because this is an area where people are putting data, and not only putting data, but they are analyzing data and taking decisions out of it using agents and AI models, right? And that's why it's becoming all the more important and relevant to have this kind of contextual engineering architecture inside your BA platforms as well as data platforms. Yeah, that's all it is.
I love it. I love the explanation and very, very much in detail, but very helpful for our audience, also the community and the enterprise leaders to understand about, how context plays an important role, but what's the ingredients in the context that makes it, interesting, but at the same time powerful to make sure that the context engineering is understood. So thanks for sharing that, Clarence. Really appreciate that. I have another question around the enterprises. That is, as enterprises about adopt agentic AI, why will, this could be your thoughts or maybe what you're seeing in the industry. Why will a unified data and analytics platform become essential? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. See, there are a couple of things, right? So a couple of points here. So one is, the first thing is basically an agentic system, right, needs an unified data plane. Okay, so you can always say you can go and connect your CRM application separately, your finance application separately, your HRMS application separately. It can always do that, right? But the
Yeah.
problem is, it does not. You cannot be sure about how the agent understands, or the LLM models understand how they are connected together, and how do you really get that entire context of the business, because these are multiple applications, right? So if
Yep.
you really have to harness your agentic systems in a much better way, a unified data model or data system is much better, like much relevant and much more powerful for an agentic system to harness on, right? And so you
Mm-hmm.
have to your models, you have to bring your data from your CRM application, your finance application, your HRMS application, create the models, create the data, set up the data there, so that the agent can use that as the main source from which they can pull in the data information. Not only pull in the data information, but also know how the entities are connected together. I mean, how is a CRM customer connected to the desk help desk system in terms of tickets that has been generated. All these connections are already well built and modeled inside the data platform where things are put together, right? So that is the first thing. The second important dimension is, once you bring in the data and the models, as I mentioned early in my previous in answer to the question on context engineering, you can build the context layer, because the data is automatically created in a single place. It is connected, so you can build the semantic models on that, and which gives you the designed knowledge about your business, and then the dynamic knowledge that is also coming, because the data keeps on updating and keeps getting
True.
added up, right? So you create this unified context plane, which will be another great enabler for agentic
Mm.
systems, right? So unified data and models, and then the unified business context. That's going to be a great enabler. Once you have these things, right, then whatever agentic analytics application that you build over that, or even separate agentic solutions that you build on, becomes much more reliable, right? More trustworthy, right? And also more repeatable, and something that you can audit on, right? So that is why this whole concept of unified data and analytics system is becoming more and more prominent. So if you just have the systems fragmented, then you will only get fragmented intelligence. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but when you unify things, then you have a unified intelligence, which is much more powerful for your business, and that's
Yeah.
going to drive the agency system much more smarter. Yeah.
Totally. I feel the keywords here are semantic layer, data foundation, unified business definitions that you kind of, talking about in detail. And then it kind of builds up the right infrastructure, the agentic infrastructure that we're kind of thinking about as well, and makes it enterprise ready at the same time for the AI adoption, which is happening at this massive pace. So that's very interesting and very insightful, Clarence. I have one last question for you, Clarence, and that is about looking ahead, a little bit about the future. How do you see Zoho fitting into the larger scheme of agentic data and analytics market? Tell us a little bit more about how it kind of, how are you all kind of planning to make it happen, and where does it actually fit?
See, as you made Zoho, no Zoho. So Zoho not only offers a powerful BI platform, which is Zoho Analytics, right? But it offers a wide variety of business applications, right?
Right.
Covering from sales to marketing to HRMS to finance,
Yes.
custom solution development, quite a lot of, right? So, and
Hmm.
all the applications have been there in the business for more than 15, 20 years, right? So we have a variety of business applications, and we have more than 1 million customers across all these applications that we serve,
Right.
that we provide in the
Massive.
marketplace. Right? A huge customer base, right? So it
Yeah.
means a variety of applications, huge amount of customer data that is getting collected and stored in this business of record, or system of
Hmm.
record, right? So that is a great platform that we have, right?
Yeah.
And then on that, we also have a very deep analytical system that we already have been in this market, right? So which has been there for more than 15 years in Zoho Analytics BA platform that we offer, right? And the
Nice.
yeah. So that's a second component. That apart, we have been also investing on AI for the last 5 to 6 years, right? So we have been introducing AI into the variety of Zoho applications,
Nice.
um, uh, seamlessly or contextually, right? So
Yep.
this is what we have, right? So this naturally helps us to move to the next level in terms of trying to integrate all this together and build what we call as a data intelligence platform, right? Data intelligence platform
Mm.
where we can bring in the data, create the models, provide a robust context layer, right, on the business data that we are collecting, and
Mm.
then layer the analytics, agentic analytics system over that, or not just stop with analytics, but also provide a platform where you can use the data that has been stored and modeled and harmonized, or what they call as golden records, right? So golden records. So you
Love it.
create all these models, and then the consumption can be through analytics, where you use agentic analytics system to analyze your
Hmm.
data, or you can build smart agents on the data, intelligent data platform, or you can even trigger workflows and actions in your applications themselves, right? So that is the kind of a system that we envision that we can really deliver, like, in the time to come, right? And the fact that we have the fundamentals already, the fundamental building blocks of business application, customer data, a very robust agentic analytics platform, as well as AI, right, will really help us to really deliver this kind of a platform, which will be really powerful, addressing the current as well as the futuric needs of the businesses. That's how we see our investment moving forward, and that's what we think is going to address the needs of our customers in this agentic era.
I love it. I love these insights, and the future definitely looks very interesting when it comes to the agentic data and analytics market. But how y'all are kind of fitting into the game as well, and sharing. Well, having like 1 million plus customer in itself is massive, and all the customer data that y'all have, it kind of becomes an enabler for y'all to also think about how customers are kind of thinking, but then also what is the need of the are for them and how are they innovating. It just helps to take that step forward and help them in their journey as well. So it's a game changer. Clarence, I think we discussed a lot of good ground here, starting from the BI space, how it has evolved, to going into the agentic AI today, and the excitement for the enterprise leaders out there is massive. Also, we spoke a little bit around how the space has evolved, and talk about why dashboards are still necessary, which is very important. And we've been all hearing that dashboards are still necessary, and then along with that, all the questions that you can ask a bot becomes much more interesting too. So yeah, it's like a no brainer. Dashboards are not going anywhere is what I heard. And then also we focused on the context engineering, which kind of plays a very important role in today's world. And thanks for all the detailed explanation that you gave around the context engineering, why it is important. I have one last question for you, Clarence, I promise, and that is about you, your team, and everything that y'all have been doing. If folks want to follow y'all, which is the best platform. If they want to connect with you, which is the best platform, LinkedIn, X, and where do you all publish articles, blogs, or any content that they want to look at? Because I'm pretty sure you'll have like so many different products. Sometimes it can even feel that, oh, I'm focused on data and analytics and I want to see what Clarence and Dame are kind of doing. So which is the best place to follow you all and also follow you?
So if you want to follow me, so you can follow my handle at x.com/Clarence Rosario. So that's my X
Nice.
handle. As well as in LinkedIn, it's once again Clarence Rosario. You can search for Clarence Rosario. That will be my profile, right? You can
Nice.
follow me. That's about myself. And if you want to follow about what we are trying to do in terms of business intelligence, you can follow x.com/Zoho Analytics. Okay, that's the primary handle. And our website is zoho.com/analytics, where you can look at what we are offering in the marketplace. And we have a very regular blog also, which we keep writing. So it's called
Nice.
Insights HQ. Insights HQ under if you go to zoho.com/analytics, you will find that blog, Insights HQ, where we keep publishing articles on what is happening, what are we trying to do, what is the future trend, what should the customers do. So there are quite a lot of topics that we keep
Very
discussing.
cool.
Yeah, so and you can also follow our LinkedIn page, Zoho Analytics LinkedIn page, which also gets these articles published. So we keep circulating across all the mediums. So these are avenues that you can use to follow us, know about us, and also interact with us.
I love it. Clarence, great info, and definitely will make sure to share the links with them as well for those who are watching us. But for those who are watching, you can go out, connect with Clarence, learn more about how the space is evolving, everything around data and analytics, context engineering. Very approachable and very nice person to chat with. I feel like Clarence and I, whenever we meet, we kind of have like so much to talk about that itself becomes a show. But it's always good to have you back on the Ravit Show and discuss about various things. I'm pretty sure we'll do it. We'll not wait for 9 more months to make this happen next time when we meet. Things might have evolved very quickly, so we might want to do a session very early and discuss about other stuff. Clarence, once again, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate all the insights that you share as a leader in this space, and also the amazing work that Zoho does is obviously all around. I hear it from the enterprise leaders, the customers that you all have, but also the community and the massive fan base that Zoho has is no secret. So great work.
Okay. Thank you, Ravi. It's always a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for hosting me. So I look
Yeah,
forward to another very soon. Okay. So it's always interesting chatting with you. Okay. So continue
thank
good
you.
work. You're doing a great job. So keep it up. Yeah. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks,
great.
Clarence. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take care. Have a nice one.